What happens when the lines between public service and, well, private interests get blurry? Today, we're going to dive into a case from Rutherford County that raises some really serious questions. Questions about accountability, about ethics, and hey, about where your tax dollars are actually going.
And this is really the big one, isn't it? The question at the heart of it all. Did your tax money, money that's supposed to be for the public good, end up secretly funding a nasty political fight? It sounds wild, I know. So let's break down exactly how something like this could even happen.
All right, to really get what went wrong here, we first have to understand how the system is supposed to function. How do counties pool their resources, and who's supposed to be in charge of that money?
So at the center of this whole story is this organization called the TNAO. That's the Tennessee Association of Assessing Officers. Now, the most important thing to know about them is where their money comes from. It's all from public dues. Counties all across Tennessee, including Rutherford, pay into this association. And that means its entire operation is funded by you, the taxpayer.
Okay, so the TNAO takes this public money and uses it to hire a full-time director who, get this, also acts as their lobbyist. And on paper, their job is crystal clear, right? It's all about supporting county assessors, helping them do their jobs, and making sure everyone's following state law. It's a role that's supposed to serve the public, period. No private agendas allowed.
But what happens when that nice, straightforward mission gets complicated? Well, this is where that system, which looks so good on paper, really started to bend under the weight of some outside interests.
The key player we need to talk about is the TNAO's director and lobbyist, a man named Will Denami. Here's the twist. The TNAO board gave him the green light to take on additional private lobbying contracts on the side. And that, right there, is where the potential for trouble really starts to bubble up.
And his client list? It was pretty extensive. I mean, he wasn't just working for one or two other groups. He was lobbying for a bunch of counties, for emergency services like E911 and EMS, and even for the County Mayors Association. When you're trying to juggle that many different interests, a major conflict isn't just possible. It's almost guaranteed.
And then that conflict became a reality. The mayor of Rutherford County at the time, Joe Carr, hired Denami for a very specific job: to lobby against a piece of legislation called the County Powers Relief Act. So let's be clear. A lobbyist supported by public funds was now also working a private contract on a really contentious local issue.
And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. I mean, look at this. On one side, you have his publicly funded job, which is all about supporting all the county assessors. But on the other, his private contract had him working on a political campaign that was actively targeting one of those very same assessors. I mean, come on, you just can't do both. It's impossible. One source we looked at just put it bluntly: this crosses every line of good governance. And when those lines between a public duty and a private payday get this blurry, the very idea of fair government is put at serious risk.
Now, this wasn't just some procedural issue or a minor technicality. Oh no. This conflict had real, actual consequences, both for the people involved and for the county as a whole. So let's take a look at the damage.
Caught right in the middle of all this was a public official, the Rutherford County assessor, Rob Mitchell. Suddenly, he's being publicly criticized and put under some insane professional pressure. The lobbyist work was even described as a hit job, basically designed to discredit him. And the TNAO, the very organization that was supposed to have his back, they offered zero support. None. But beyond the harm to one person, this whole mess created some huge legal and financial risks for Rutherford County. By not monitoring this contract and letting the conflict happen, the county basically opened itself up to potential lawsuits for negligence, big administrative fines, and a massive loss of public trust. And that's a cost that taxpayers could end up having to pay for. So all of this brings us right to the bottom line. What does this really mean for taxpayers, not just in Rutherford County, but anywhere that public money and private influence start to mix? It really forces us to ask a tough question. The TNAO was funded by dozens and dozens of counties. So by allowing their director to jump into a political dogfight in one county, did they completely violate the ethical duty they owed to every single member that paid his salary? This quote from the source material just sums it all up, doesn't it? In the end, when the system of checks and balances breaks down, and when the rules get bent for political gain, it's always the public that pays the price.
through eroded trust and wasted money. So that leaves us with one last really crucial thought here. Look, accountability, it's not just about pointing fingers and placing blame, right? It's about actually fixing what's broken. So when public trust gets shattered like this, the real question becomes, whose job is it to pick up the pieces? And maybe even more important, how do we make sure something like this never ever happens again?